I just got back from about 4.5 days away where I completely checked out. No computer, no work, no nothing. It was my annual sister's weekend getaway. It was amazing. The timing of this is kind of funny because in less than 1 week, we're about to hold one of our biggest events of the year where I teach something called the One Notebook System to thousands of women. And yes, I chose to go away on a vacation right before this. So, as it happens, I flew home and the very next morning I woke up feeling very concerned. I'm like, I have this event in 6 days. What's going on? Right? I was anxious. This happens to me every time I travel. And then when I sat down at my desk and opened up and looked at the state of the business, right? The tasks, all of that, guess what? It was no big deal. Nothing fell through the cracks. I didn't miss anything. Literally nothing happened. No negative consequences, no massive catch up time, both at home and for work. The event, all the preparation, totally happening, everything fine. Team knew exactly what to do, everything at the household running just fine as well. Now, here's what I want to talk about today. Everyone out there discusses that the real reason we need systems, operating systems, whether for business or for life, is so that we can do more. Meaning, with business, you want to have good operations in place so you can scale your business, you can grow it, you can do more. At home, we need operating things so that we can basically get more done. And yes, having good operations means usually a good byproduct of it is that we can increase our capacity. But no one's talking about the best benefit of this. And the real reason we want operational systems excellence is because it means we get to be calm. And today we're going to be breaking down why calm and or harmony is the real ROI of great operations, right? This is the real MVP, if you will, and it's what makes everything else possible. Well, hey everyone, welcome back to Work-Life Harmony. Today we're going to be diving into something that hustle culture doesn't really want you to know about, right? Because whether we're at home or at work, hustle culture wants you focused on doing more. They define that productivity means getting more done at the cost of potentially anything, your health, your sleep, your wellness, your relationships, etc. So instead, what we're going to be talking about here today ties to my definition of productivity, which is always this: getting the most important stuff done in a stress-free way. All right, that's what we're going to be focused on here today. So here is when you are out looking at social media content, etc., having systems in place or really good operations when we're thinking about it from a business sense, this is always positioned as the key to growth, right? You cannot grow, AKA do more, if you don't have great operations in place, right? You can't grow your business. You can't do more at home unless you have these things in place, right? That is the key messaging that hustle culture is giving us. But here's what I want you to really understand. If the way you are getting things done today is chaotic, all right, if it feels out of control, if it feels like you can't step away, if you're exhausted all the time, if you then scale chaos, here's what's going to happen. You will have more chaos. So when people are out there promising hacks, like anytime I hear the word hack, I'm checked out. Hack is not sustainable. Hack is a Band-Aid fix. All right. So if they're giving you a quote productivity hack to do more, chances are if you're already feeling chaotic, implementing that hack is likely just going to lead to larger chaos, because scaling chaos is just going to create, almost an exponential effect of chaos. Now, instead, let's talk about what happens when we instill really good operations and systems. Again, a byproduct, sure, should be that we can get more done, meaning productivity in the form of getting the most important things done in a stress-free way. However, When we instill really good operations and systems, the real benefit here, guys, is that it totally decreases our stress and our anxiety, meaning things become calm. I have a friend, a dear friend named Ashley, and she always talks about how she's like, "Man, I love watching what you do with your business because you are running a calm business." And I love that messaging because, yes, we are. So, as I shared in the opening, I just came back from a trip where I was completely checked out for 4.5 days from home stuff, from personal stuff, from the business. Truly checked out, didn't look at anything. And this trip was planned for me to come home less than a week before a massive live event. This is usually our second largest event of the year. All right. And this was a prime opportunity for me to, number one, not be able to enjoy my trip, right? If I was constantly thinking about this event and wondering, how am I going to pull this off? And oh my gosh, I'm going to be coming home and working nights and weekends and all of that. But instead, because of the operations and the systems that we've set up at the Pink Bee and also what I've set up at home, what this means is stepping away, even right before a massive event, did not cause me to be anxious, concerned, stressed, etc. while I was gone. I did not have to look at one thing for work. Nobody on my team had to reach out to ask me any questions. When we have operational excellence, right? Yes, it allows us to potentially scale and grow, but it reduces stressors. It also means that we don't become the bottleneck, right? Now, I want you to think about that bottleneck, both if you're running a business or at home, right? If you are the bottleneck in your business, you can't step away for 5 days without having to check in and people asking you stuff, right? It means that they are not able to keep things running without you. Same is true at home, right? And this is an area we are constantly working on here at my house. If you are what I always refer to as kind of like the COO of your household, if you're the only one that knows the what, the when, the why, the where, all of that, we become a bottleneck. And it means everybody comes and relies on us. It means that every time we try and step away, something breaks. And so instead, when we learn how to implement systems and operational excellence, it means that we can go on vacation and actually enjoy it because we're not coming home with a complete mess to clean up, whether it's at home or at work, right? Or we're not coming home and spending the first 3 days playing catch up. Now, does it mean there's never catch up? Of course not. I mean, I stepped away, I came back, and I timed myself. I ended up in 2 hours and 12 minutes completely caught up, meaning the things that had to wait for me, again, nothing was like stuck or not in progress, but there's emails you need to catch up on, all that kind of stuff. Truth be told, I did not do my plan before my trip, so I had to come home and plan. So that morning, I was completely caught up in just over 2 hours after having stepped away from everything for quite some time right before a massive event. Now, let's talk about why having this calm is actually more important than opening up this byproduct of being able to do more or scale. Specifically, I want to talk first about what this means for business, and then I second want to talk about what this calm applies to your household as well. All right, so here's why calm actually is more important and matters more in business than scaling. The fact is, if you are running your own business, the vast majority of business owners I talk to today that are women are already overwhelmed, right? And they are already trying to function in a negative capacity, meaning they're stuck in a place where they are continually trying to do more than is physically possible day after day, week after week, right? What they don't need, you don't need scale if you are already in overwhelm. So if you are feeling burnt out, overwhelmed, like you're barely staying afloat, right? You're going to bed exhausted, waking up feeling behind from yesterday, and then you are looking to, quote, scale your business, grow more, do more, again, scaling chaos just leads to more chaos. You will get burnt out. You will create something that simply is not sustainable. If you take the approach on the flip side of saying, how can I create a calm business today before scaling? Meaning, what can I put in place today that gets me out of overwhelm, that gets me unstuck, right? Whether it's putting operations in, maybe it means that you're having to outsource, maybe it means you're doing less than what you're currently doing, right? If you take the focus on, I need to get things running calm prior to scaling, that is what is going to allow the scaling story to be something that is incredibly sustainable. Now, I lived this in my own life and in my own business several years ago. I had grown pretty much single-handedly. I was a solopreneur for a very long time, and I had grown the business to a point where I was replacing the income that I had made in 20 plus years in the technology space. It felt like a massive win. And I was like, hey, this is great. And I was, getting a lot of messages and people were nudging me of like, what's next? What's the next big milestone, right? Are you going to grow a $1 million business, get to that $1 million run rate? I like push more, more. And I had a story in my head that in order for me to scale the business just meant more chaos because that's all I'd ever seen. I worked in a lot of startup software organizations over the course of my career. And it went, man, did they move fast. Hire fast. I mean, I was working 70, 80 hours, sometimes a week for months on end in my 20s. And I witnessed scaling equaled more burnout, more headache, more stress. And so that's all I'd ever witnessed. So I was at a point with the business where I had to make a decision of stay where I am because it was comfortable, but knowing that what I had in place, if I scaled it the exact same way I was doing it, was going to be chaos because I was lacking the operations and the systems behind it to allow it to scale calmly and in a sustainable way. So, thankfully, with the experience that I had, I was able to recognize that. And instead of going all in and pushing to scale the business, I made an intentional choice for the next year to focus on optimizing it and creating the structure for the business that maintained sustainability and calm so that anytime I was sitting down to work, it didn't feel like everything was on fire or getting done just at the last minute. Now, because of this focus, what then happened after the operational infrastructure was in place is we have been way outpacing a lot of competitors, business owners, et cetera, that I know because we are now able to scale in a very calm, comfortable way. And that is the lens that we look at for anything new that we're looking to do at the business, anything that we're changing is always through the lens of, is this sustainable? And because of that, we run a business where I can walk away, right? Things remain pretty calm. Now, can you prevent every emergency? Of course not, especially anytime you're dealing with technology, right? Things happen. But now I want you to think about this in the framework of your home life as well, because these same principles apply at home. People are offering all sorts of systems for efficiency at home. I see it all the time, like cleaning schedules or even products. Like I'm a big fan of the Skylight calendar that's supposed to help create systems at home, right? And they're talking about, let's be more efficient, let's be more efficient. But the real underlying benefit when we set up these systems at home, it's about what you start to have are calm mornings, more stress-free meals, predictable bedtimes, right? What we're selling isn't what the number one benefit is, in my opinion. The real benefit is the calm, the harmony. That is the absolute winner of what's going to happen whenever you start focusing on operations and systems. Now, this is why, again, this podcast is called Work Life Harmony. We are all about harmony. Everything that we do at the Pink Bee, all of the programs, systems, courses, etc., that I teach are all with that end goal in mind. How do I have calm? How do I have harmony? How can I be more productive in the right way? Meaning getting the most important things done in a stress free way. And that's exactly why at the Pink Bee, we have two core offerings, right? We have our signature program, which is the top program. This is for any stage of life. It is what teaches sustainable weekly and monthly planning that works with the realities and the unpredictability of our lives. The whole intent behind planning the way it's taught inside the top program is to allow you to be calm, to allow you to not be overwhelmed all the time. And it's putting operational efficiencies into your personal life, into your homes, into your work environment. And we've had thousands of women now go through this top program from all over the world for almost 6 years. Now, on the other, our other core offering here that was just introduced last year is really specifically for business owners, and that's called Top Operations. This is where we are handing over to you our operational playbook inside of ClickUp, where you do not have to figure out how to create a calm business. We literally hand it over to you, templates, all of it, step by step videos of how to use every single one because we are on a mission to bring work life harmony into homes all over the world. Now, if you're interested in checking out our core offerings, they are available all the time. You can just head over to thepinkbee.com. And on the menu there's a header that says shop. And on that pull down, we have both top operations and we have the top program. If you are feeling overwhelmed, stressed, etc., and you're constantly feeling the need to do more, quote, be more productive, scale, whatever language you're used to hearing, I want you to take a beat and ask yourself, are things calm right now? And if the answer is no, I would encourage you to shift your thinking to what can I put in place that takes my current situation into a more calm place before I start thinking about adding in more and doing more. All right, friends, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you back here next week.